Hey everyone, I'm Serena and I'm 61 years old. I have been happily married to my husband Phil for 35 wonderful years. We have built a life full of love and it's been a peaceful journey. We did the whole family thing and raised our amazing daughter. And today I want to talk about her, Maria, and her son, aka my grandchild Joe. Let me take you back 2 years. It all started with a phone call from my son-in-law Kevin. It was one of those moments that sent shivers down your spine. Hi, Serena. Hey, it's quite unusual to hear from you. What's been going on lately? You sound serious. Is everything okay? Serena, I might want you to find a comfortable place to sit down because what I'm about to share is heavy, to say the least. Kevin, you're making me nervous. What's happened? Well, today Maria took the car. She wanted to treat herself and Joe with some ice cream. And? Why is there a tremor in your voice, Kevin? Breathe and tell me what's going on. Today, we lost both of them, Maria and Joe. A brutal car accident took them away. I can't fathom what life will be without them, Serena. It feels like the world has come crashing down. My world seemed to have stopped. I could not believe what Kevin was saying. Oh my, Kevin. My heart aches. Maria, my dear daughter, and Joe, my grandson? He was just 3. This pain is indescribable. They were too young. I need some time to collect myself, and so do you, I guess. I have to go now. Please. I would appreciate some solitude. Don't rush over right away. I will share the funeral details in a couple of days when I have them sorted. Take care, Kevin. You too, Serena. After that sad call from Kevin, I went to our bedroom where Phil was reading. I shared the heartbreaking news and Phil dropped his book. We hugged and cried. Our daughter Maria and our little grandson Joe were gone in a terrible accident. I wondered, why did this happen? What did they do wrong? For the next few days, Phil and I stayed quiet. We looked at old pictures, remembering the good times. It was tough, because Maria's laughter and Joe's playfulness were no longer with us. We told our family and everyone felt the same, heartbroken. Our relatives tried to comfort us, but nothing could fill the emptiness left by Maria and Joe. We waited for Kevin's call, thinking about how hard it must be for him to lose his wife and son at the same time. Kevin was always quiet but strong for Maria. Now he was alone, facing unimaginable sadness. And after a couple of days, we received a call from Kevin. Hey, Serena, how's Phil handling the news and how are you holding up? It's really tough, Kevin. Dealing with this kind of pain is something no parent or grandparent can ever be prepared for. Imagining your struggle losing Maria and Joe at the same time is just heart-wrenching. Yeah, it has been incredibly rough. Just the mere thought of them brings tears to my eyes, and every room I step into is like a constant reminder of their absence. It's just overwhelming, you know? Kevin, Phil and I want you to know that we're here for you. You treated our daughter with so much respect and love. It is the least we can do for you in return. Well, thank you guys for your support. I wanted to let you know the funeral is on the 9th. I'll text you all the details, and don't worry, I'll handle inviting everyone else too. We've decided to go for cremation for both of them. It's what Maria would have wanted. She must have shared that with you, I suppose. Phil and I are considering driving down there on our own. We will see you on the 9th. Sure thing, Serena. Pass along my greetings to Phil. On the 9th, Phil and I dressed in black and drove for 4 hours to the venue. We planned to attend the funeral and stay at a motel overnight, not wanting to bother Kevin too much. When we got there, it was empty. No one was around. We were on time, but confusion hit us. We called Kevin, but he didn't answer. Standing there worried and unsure, we wondered why no one else was there for the funeral. Phil, this is so strange. I expected to see people gathering for the funeral. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Kevin should have at least picked up the phone. I don't see a single employee we can ask about the funeral. Maybe there's a delay or something we don't know. We drove to Kevin's place and it was tough. The whole way I felt a lump in my throat like I might cry any moment. Going there, knowing what had happened, was really hard. When we reached, I took a deep breath. Their house, which used to be a happy place, now felt heavy with sadness. We walked to the front door and each step felt heavy. I knocked, not sure what we would find on the other side. The door slowly opened and there was Kevin, looking so different from before. Serena, Phil, I almost forgot about you. What about the funeral, though? What do you mean, you almost forgot? What about the funeral? Oh, about that. It was yesterday and you guys didn't show up. Yesterday? But today is the 9th. What's even happening? Are you telling us we missed our daughter's and grandson's funeral? I'm so sorry, guys. That's why I was wondering yesterday why you and your side of the family didn't show up. The thing is, the date was postponed to the 8th and I thought I had sent the text out to everyone, but I guess I missed you guys. Kevin, you cannot be serious right now. How could you forget us? We were certainly one of the most important parts of their lives. I could not help it, and I broke down into tears. Hey, Serena, calm down. What's done is done. Kevin, do you mind if we sit in the living room for some time? Actually, yeah, I'm so sorry, Phil, Serena. I urgently need to go somewhere. I'm getting ready. It's just a matter of 5 minutes. Serena can have a glass of water. We have been in the car for hours. I'm sorry about the whole funeral thing. I hope you can forgive me. I really didn't mean it. I know how important you people were to Serena and Joe, but right now is not a good time. I'll give you a call later. Kevin slammed the door in our faces. We got into the car, and once I was done with crying and being emotional, returning to our senses, I began to realize the strange actions of Kevin. Why was he acting so odd, forgetting to invite us to the funeral after it was rescheduled? It didn't make sense. No one could make such a huge mistake. The way he slammed the door in our faces after Phil requested just 5 minutes in the living room, it was all so peculiar. Anyhow, we decided to drive to a hotel and stay there for the night to rest. The next day we headed back home, and during this time there were no calls from Kevin, just a couple of texts expressing how sorry he was. I didn't pay much attention to them. I was kind of mad at Kevin. You could say grief had clouded my judgment, or perhaps I was just angry. I found myself in a confused state. So much had happened, from the devastating passing of Maria and Joe to us missing their funeral and Kevin's strange behavior. It was overwhelming. Weeks after the funeral, one day Kevin sent me some texts accompanied by a couple of photos. The images depicted a serene lake in the background with 2 urns placed on the passenger seat of a car. The text said, Hey, Serena, it's Kevin. I hope you're doing okay. I wanted to share something with you. Remember that spot near the lake where Maria and I went camping once? It was one of Maria's favorite places. She shared the news of Joe's pregnancy with me there. I thought it would be the right place to pour their ashes. I know we have not been talking and I understand why. The funeral mix-up, my strange behavior. I messed up. I'm truly sorry. I just hope one day you can find it in your hearts to forgive me. After seeing those pictures, my heart swelled up, not just for Maria and Joe, but also for Kevin. I realized the grief he was dealing with, and it was a perspective I hadn't fully considered. I showed the pictures to Phil, and he expressed a similar sentiment. We both understood the need to start letting go of the pain and anger and focus more on keeping Maria and Joe alive in our hearts and memories. Instead of responding to Kevin's text, I decided to make a call. It felt like the right thing to do, to bridge the gap that had formed between us. Kevin, how was your trip? It was a mix of emotions, Serena, painful, therapeutic, refreshing, all at the same time. I felt like I needed it. I should have been more understanding the past few weeks. We were all dealing with our pain, weren't we? I'm really sorry. No need to apologize, Serena. I know I messed up. It's okay, Kevin. I just wanted to say I hope the future brings you the best. I'd like to meet you soon. You meant a lot to Maria, and that won't change now that she's gone. Our relationship is still here, and you can always come to us for anything or just to say hi. It would be a pleasure for both Phil and me. I'd like that, Serena. Your call today meant a great deal to me. Please take care of yourself. Months turned into a whole year, and during this time things stayed pretty much the same. The pain was slowly fading away. Kevin and I didn't really talk much, and maybe that's how it was supposed to be for us. Phil and I carried on with our usual lives. We enjoyed gardening and pottery, our simple hobbies. We're just an old couple, so our adventures were more about the everyday stuff. We had to keep moving forward. Our home was filled with memories, and the pictures on the walls telling stories of a life well lived, of love that stayed strong even when we faced loss. In the evenings, we'd sit on the porch, sharing stories, and sometimes we would just sit and enjoy the quiet. Then one day, out of nowhere, Kevin showed up at our house. Oh my God, Kevin! I had no idea you were here in the area. You should have given a heads up. I could have prepared some lunch for you. Hey, Serena, I actually came here specifically to see you and drop off some boxes of Maria's and Joe's stuff. Oh, you didn't want to keep anything? Nope, I kept what I needed. The rest, Paris suggested I give to you. Paris? Who's Paris? Oh, Paris, I forgot to mention her. She's my girlfriend, moved in about a month ago. Wow, it's only been a year and you've already moved on fast. Well, you know, I couldn't stay sad forever. I needed to... Anyway, where's Phil? He's at the hardware store getting some tools. I wish I could stick around to see him, but I'll just drop the boxes from my car's trunk onto your porch and head out. After Kevin left, I was honestly a bit shocked. A whole year had passed and he already had a girlfriend who moved in just a month ago. Well, people move at their own pace, I thought. Maybe Kevin was someone who liked to move fast in relationships. Despite the surprise, I was genuinely happy that he had found someone else to love, and I wished the best for him. As another year rolled by, a few months back, something significant happened, and that marked the beginning of the real and disgusting secret unfolding. One day I found myself at the grocery store on a solo mission to pick up a few things because some friends were coming over for dinner. Meanwhile, Phil was at home weaving his magic with his renowned apple pie, the talk of the town. As I wandered through the aisles, scouting for snacks before dinner, my attention was drawn to a little boy around 6 or 7 years old. He resembled someone quite a bit, but I couldn't quite get a clear view of his face. Not wanting to be a creep, I discreetly moved a bit closer, pretending to peruse the items on the shelves. The little boy was accompanied by his parents, and as soon as I saw his face, a wave of emotion swept over me. It reminded me of Joe. Sure, people resemble each other all the time, but there was something about his green eyes, that cute tiny nose, and his brunette hair. It echoed Joe's features so vividly. Call it a sixth sense or whatever you want, but a voice in my head suggested I go over to the parents and say hi to the boy, and so I did. Hey there, little one. You're a cute little button, aren't you? Hi, I'm Serena. Hi, I'm Taylor, and this is Paxton. I'm sorry, do we know you? No, you don't. Nice to meet you guys, though. I approached you because I had a small grandchild like your little one, but he passed away 2 years ago. Seeing your boy reminded me of him. I'm so sorry for your loss. This is Joey. Joey, wow, there's more than just physical resemblance. How old is he? He's 5, about to turn 6 soon. He looks adorable. You guys are lucky. Well, he's our foster kid, and we took him in about a year ago. Oh, is that so? Wow, I can't believe it. Yeah, but he's like one of our own in our hearts. He's in kindergarten right now. We moved to this town a year ago. Oh, one of my friends is a teacher at the school here. Whenever you want to begin with first grade, how about you give me a call? I can help you with the admission. Wow, you're a generous stranger. Yeah, I just like helping people out. You've only been here a year, and me, on the other hand, a whole lifetime. There's only so much an old woman can do. After grabbing the number, I left behind my basket and rushed to my car in the parking lot. As soon as I entered, I took a deep breath. A little boy named Joey was taken into foster care a year ago by his parents, who moved into town with him. I never got to go to the funeral, nor did I see the urns with ashes. I thought I was going crazy, but it started making sense. The boy really looked like Joe, my Joe. I drove back home and walked straight into the kitchen. Phil asked me about the groceries, but instead I spilled out the story of what happened in the grocery store. He thought I was coming up with theories, dismissing it as an unlikely truth. He told me to calm down, attributing it to a huge coincidence, claiming that coincidences happen all the time. Later that night, I couldn't even be mentally present at the dinner with our friends. I thought I was going crazy, but it started making sense. The boy really looked like Joe, my Joe. I drove back home and walked straight into the kitchen, and Phil asked me about the groceries, but instead I spilled out the story of what happened in the grocery store. He thought I was coming up with theories, dismissing it as an unlikely truth. He told me to calm down, attributing it to a huge coincidence, claiming that coincidences happen all the time. Later that night, I couldn't even be mentally present at the dinner with our friends. All I could think about was Joe. A week passed, and no matter how much Phil tried to convince me to let it go and to forget it, I couldn't. I was pretty sure about what I saw, and honestly, I couldn't even trust Kevin anymore. One day, I decided to call Taylor on the number she had given me and asked her to meet me at a cafe. I carried some photos I had of Joe, and we met. Taylor, thanks for meeting me. I need to share something with you. Of course, Serena. What's on your mind? I have been thinking about your son. I saw more than just a resemblance. I saw Joe in him. Take a look at these pictures. Wow, the resemblance is uncanny. This is for sure my Joey, I would say. This is quite something, right? Have you considered the possibility that Joey might be Joe? It's a wild idea, but stranger things have happened. We should take a grandparentage test to be sure. A test? Is that a thing? Yes, it's a DNA test that can determine if there's a grandparent-grandchild relationship. It could provide the answers you're looking for. That might be the solution. I just need to know the truth. I want you to know that no matter what happens, Taylor, whether Joey is Joe or not, I will not take him away from you. I just want to know the truth and expose my son-in-law's secret if there is one. Let's do it, Serena. It might bring some closure and clarity to you. After giving Taylor my sample for the grandparentage test, I kept the whole thing under wraps for a while, even from Phil. I didn't want people to think I was going crazy, not even my own husband. The days that followed were filled with a mix of anticipation and anxiety. 4 days later, a text from Taylor lit up my phone, and I could feel my heart racing as I opened it. The message answered all the questions that had been swirling in my mind. Serena, I have the results. Joey is Joe. Your instincts were right. Oh my God, my baby. I'm so glad he's alive. I knew it in my heart. Your little one is alive after all. Yay. Do you want to come over and visit him? Before that, I need to put a few things into place with my son-in-law. There are some conversations we need to have. Of course, Serena, take your time. When you're ready, we can plan a visit. I'm here to support you through all of this. Thank you, Taylor. This means the world to me. After telling Phil the whole story and showing him the photo of the test that Taylor had sent, he was just as shocked as I was. Phil apologized for not believing in it at first, but he was genuinely glad that we had found that Joe was still alive. However, the discovery left us with more questions, especially concerning Kevin and the circumstances surrounding Maria's death. What if Kevin had done something worse to Maria? The uncertainty lingered in our minds, urging us to seek answers face to face. Without wasting any time, we got into our car and drove 4 hours away to see him. The drive was filled with a mix of anticipation and anxiety, wondering what revelations awaited us. When we reached Kevin's place, this time we didn't bother asking for permission to get in. Determined to confront the questions that had been haunting us, I walked into the living room of Kevin's house with Phil by my side. Kevin, where are you? Serena, Phil, what are you two doing at this hour? Paris is upstairs. Please don't cause a scene. Where is Maria, Kevin? We just found out Joe is very much alive, and before more bad thoughts creep into my mind about what you did to Maria, I need answers. How did you get to know? God has his ways. Now tell us, where is Maria? What did you do to my daughter and her son? Okay, Maria, she's dead. The car accident, everything, it was real. The only difference was that Maria was in that car alone that day. She died within minutes of the crash. I didn't know what to do without Maria. I had a 3-year-old, for God's sake. I could not have moved on in life with him. No woman wants a guy with past baggage. I lied to you guys about the funeral and everything. The funeral was supposed to be on the 8th from the very start. So, you faked Joe's death. Not really. You and your side of the family were the only ones who I lied to. The funeral wasn't much of a funeral. It was just me, my parents, a couple of friends who knew that Joe was alive. They were the only people I trusted, and when I told them I wanted to give up on Joe, they supported me. I gave him up for adoption, and I don't know what happened next or where he is now. Joe somehow ended up in foster care. That's what happened. We all heard a stair creak, and there was a woman standing on the stairs with tears in her eyes, which I assumed was Paris. I heard everything, Kevin. Don't come back upstairs until I move out tomorrow. I don't want to hear another word. Babe, please, I can explain. You deserve this, Kevin. You and your disgusting family who supported this. I can't believe it. Don't think I'm letting you off the hook easily. I will be suing you. There is going to be an investigation. I'll go into all the details and get my daughter and my grandson the justice they deserve. I messed up, Serena. I didn't know how to handle everything after Maria's death. I thought I was doing what was best for Joe. What you did is unforgivable, Kevin. You robbed Joe of his family. Of us. What if he ended up somewhere bad? What kind of a dad are you? Please forgive me. I'll make sure you pay for this for the rest of your life. Right now, we're dealing with some legal stuff with Kevin. Our lawyer says he might end up in prison for a few months, and honestly, after what he did, he deserves it. Paris left him because of all the lies, and now Kevin's got a shady record and a tough past he can't run away from. Now Joe, Taylor and Paxton are taking care of him. They call him Joey. It was a tough decision for us, but we didn't want to take away the love and stability Taylor and Paxton could give him. We still see them every other weekend, and it's a mix of sad and okay feelings. We decided that as Joe gets older, we'll tell him everything. We want him to know about his past and why things happened the way they did. Being open like this is our way of helping Joe understand his story. I'm glad Joe ended up with Taylor and Paxton. He could have seen much worse. They're good parents to Joe, and it makes our hearts feel lighter. Time is passing and things are slowly getting better. The hurt from the past is still there, but having Taylor, Paxton and Joe around brings a different kind of happiness. Even though Maria is no longer with us, her memory stays in our hearts. Hello everyone. I'm Lorelei, a 70-year-old woman who had the privilege of living a long and fulfilling life, grateful for every precious moment. It is a surprise to find myself writing at this age because throughout my life I have been surrounded by the best of people. Life's unexpected, you know. So here I am sharing a slice of my story. It all started with a phone call from my granddaughter Colleen 6 years ago. It had been only a few months since my husband's passing, and I was not prepared for what was coming next. Grandma, it's Colleen. Colleen, what is the matter? You sound distressed. Grandma, it's Mom and Dad. The hospital just called. I'm freaking out here. Oh my goodness, slow down, dear. Take deep breaths and tell me everything you know. I got a call from the hospital. They said Mom and Dad were in a car crash. I don't know the details, but we need to get there. Okay, take a deep breath, Colleen. We need to gather information first. Did they say how serious it is? No, they just said they are in critical condition. I can't lose them, Grandma. What if something terrible happens? We don't know anything yet. We will face this together. Now get ready and I will come over so we can head out to the hospital together. I'll be right by your side. After telling Colleen we would face this together, I meant every word. The weeks that followed were the darkest I had ever known. My son-in-law and daughter fought hard, but the hospital struggle seemed endless. Watching my own daughter slip away was unbearable, a cruel reversal of the natural order. I should have been the one to go first. But the real challenge was for Colleen, a mere 15 years old, a fresh sophomore in school. We leaned on each other during those rough weeks, holding on to whatever comfort we could find. The days were sad and the nights felt endless. After the funeral, Colleen stayed with me. We decided it was best for her to move in, and soon after I legally took guardianship of her. Those were tough times, you know. We were mourning, grieving, and trying to pick up the pieces of a life that had changed so suddenly. The money that my daughter and son-in-law had left behind went into a fund for Colleen. Colleen had a rough time in high school. She rebelled a bit, staying out late, dressing boldly and being a bit wild. I understood she was coping with everything in her own way. As her guardian, I had to be both grandma and mom. I had to set rules, keep things in order, and provide a motherly presence. It was not easy, but I did my best. We faced challenges, but there were also happy moments. I attended her school events, took photos at her prom with her boyfriend Josh, and tried to be there for her. While I could not replace her mom, I wanted to offer support and guidance. I vividly recall the conversation I had with Colleen after she graduated from school. It was a moment filled with mixed emotions. Colleen was uncertain about what path to take next. We sat down and I assured her that she had time to figure things out. Colleen, we need to talk about your future. Ever thought about what kind of job you would like? Yeah, Grandma. I like taking photos and writing stuff. Maybe something creative? Great. There are classes for that in college, you know, to improve your skills. Well, Grandma, I've been thinking I'm not sure about college. Maybe I want to work for a bit first and see where life takes me. Oh, that's a big decision. College just seems like too much right now. I think I'll learn more by living life. I want to move out and be on my own. Huh, I see. It's important to follow your heart. But honey, have you thought about how you will make money? Yeah, I'll look at part-time jobs, maybe doing some freelance photo and writing stuff. I thought it through. I have some money saved up that Mom and Dad left me. I'll use that until I find a job. And yeah, I forgot to mention, I will probably relocate when Josh gets his acceptance letter. We want to move in together. Moving in together is a significant step. Make sure you're prepared for all the changes. I know, Grandma. Josh and I have talked about it. After Colleen moved out, our home felt a bit lonely. I worried about her as she went through different phases. She tried living with Josh, broke up with him, dabbled in photography, and eventually decided on a 6-month cooking diploma. Colleen explored various paths to figure out what she wanted in life. We mostly talked on the phone during this time. She needed space to navigate being an adult, and that's okay. Many young adults go through ups and downs to discover themselves. We would see each other during holidays like Thanksgiving and Christmas, cherishing those moments. But most of the time, Colleen was out there facing life's challenges on her own. It was a year ago when Colleen turned 20, and I wanted to make her birthday special even though we were miles apart. So I booked a bouquet of flowers, got it sent to her apartment, and gave her a birthday call. Hey, honey, happy birthday. Did you like the flowers I sent you? Yeah, they were great, Grandma. I'm glad. I'm missing you. What did you do today? Well, nothing much, Grandma. Did you get yourself a cake and celebrate with your friends? Yeah, we met up and we had cake. It was a small party. Well, I hope you stayed away from alcohol. You were still 20. One more year to go. Actually, Grandma, I wanted to talk to you about something. Of course, sweetheart. What's on your mind? Grandma, I've been feeling a bit lonely lately. I miss being around family. And I was thinking about coming back home and moving in with you. What do you think? Oh, honey, I would love to have you back. You're always welcome here. Yeah, I've been feeling a bit lost. I think being back home with you will make things better. I completely understand, sweetie. You don't have to go through it alone. I will see you soon then. After that call with Colleen, my heart swelled with concern. She mentioned feeling lonely, and it got me worried. Perhaps the city life had taken its toll on her. At the same time, I was excited at the prospect of having her back home. A few weeks later, Colleen decided to move back home. And the day she arrived and when she walked through the door, she seemed different. Quieter, more reserved. Life in the city had left its mark on her. After some days, when she had settled, I decided to have a heart-to-heart conversation with her. Colleen, we need to talk. I've noticed you've been quiet and distant. Is everything okay? It's just, Grandma, life has been tough. Sweetheart, I'm here for you. If you're feeling overwhelmed, maybe seeing a therapist could help. No, Grandma, really, I don't need a therapist. It's not like that. Then what is it, dear? You can tell me anything. Okay, here goes. I messed up, Grandma, big time. Messed up? What happened? You know, the money Mom and Dad left for me, I've been spending it carelessly, lying to you about having a job. I never went to work during the course of the last 2 years. Colleen, that money was for your future, for college. I know, Grandma, I messed up. I barely have $2,000 left. You spent so much money, honey? What on earth did you buy? Designer clothes, bags, parties, gadgets, dining out every day. I was foolish. Colleen, I must say I'm deeply disappointed in you. Your parents must have been too if they were here today. I know, Grandma, I let you down. They entrusted you with that money for a reason, your future, and look what you've done, honey. I promise, Grandma, I'll find a way to fix this and earn back your trust. I'm really sorry. It's okay, sweetheart. I'm not mad. I got a bit concerned, that's all. We will find a way to fix this. I want to save the remaining money for college and get a job and start afresh. After that day, Colleen tried to work on herself. She got a part-time job, just as promised, and started working on college applications for the following year. Taking a gap of almost 3 years had its challenges, and getting accepted at top-notch colleges seemed like a daunting task. She was keen on pursuing a literature course and put in her best effort. Colleen was receiving rejection letters from almost everywhere, and it was taking a toll on her. She felt like a letdown, sinking into a state of depression. I could not bear to see her like that, so I suggested she apply to specific private colleges. I had an ulterior motive, and I will keep the details vague. Let us just say I had a cousin called Lucy who happened to be the dean of this renowned school. I decided to pay her a visit before Colleen sent in her application to put in a good word for her. I drove to the college hoping to speak to Lucy and vouch for Colleen's potential. Lucy, I appreciate you taking the time to meet me. There is something important I'd like to discuss about my granddaughter, Colleen. Of course, Lorelei. I'm here to help. What's on your mind? Colleen has faced her share of challenges, especially after losing her parents in that tragic accident a few years ago. It has been tough for her, and she has been trying to rebuild her life. I can't imagine how difficult that must have been for her. I'm truly sorry for her loss. Thank you, Lucy. She's been working tirelessly, taking on part-time jobs and trying to pursue her passion for literature, but the college rejections have taken a toll on her spirit. Rejections can be disheartening, but I'm glad you reached out. How can I assist Colleen? Lucy, you have the power to make a real difference in Colleen's life. If she could find a place here, it would mean the world to her. She has so much potential, and I believe this environment could be the fresh start she needs. Lorelei, I understand your request. Let me assure you that I will personally review Colleen's application. A few weeks after my little chat with Lucy, Colleen came into my room smiling ear to ear and jumping with excitement. You seem to be jumping with joy. Grandma, you won't believe it. I received the acceptance letter from the college you suggested I apply to. Oh, sweetheart, that is fantastic news. I'm so proud of you. Grandma, I can't believe it either. I got the acceptance letter in the mail today, and I could not wait to share the news with you. This feels like a dream come true. Well, I've been struggling with money a bit. The part-time job was not enough, and the tuition is becoming a bit overwhelming. I was wondering if you could help me out with my tuition. Colleen, I want you to focus on your studies and not worry about financial stress. I'm going to help you with your tuition. After Colleen began her college journey, she opted to stay with me. Given the close proximity of her college to my place, just a 30-minute commute. However, as much as I was delighted to have her around, things took an unexpected turn. Colleen started changing, and not for the better. She became rather aggressive and disrespectful. She would toss her laundry my way, completely disregarding the shared responsibilities we used to have. One evening, after her late-night college party on a weekday, I confronted her about it. It was then she crossed the line, deliberately pouring her scalding cup of tea on me. It was as if she had become a completely different person. To add to the chaos, within 2 months, she introduced me to her new boyfriend, Carl. Now, Carl was something else. He would stroll into my house without a simple greeting, overstaying his welcome. They never bothered asking for permission. They just assumed it was okay. They would even order me to cook for them, as if it was my obligation. One night, it was getting late and Colleen had not returned home. I tried calling her repeatedly, growing more anxious with each unanswered call. The worry kept me up late into the night, and finally around midnight she walked in, accompanied by Carl. Colleen, where have you been? I was so concerned about you. And why is there blood on Carl's hand? Is everything okay? Leave us alone, Grandma. It's none of your business. And by the way, go and fetch me the first aid box. No, you need to tell me what happened. Are you hurt? Just let it go, old woman. Colleen and I were having fun at the campus and I got a bit hurt. Fun at the campus? What kind of fun involves blood? Tell me now, Colleen, or I'll have to ask you to leave my house. Okay. So the campus was quiet and we sneaked past security. We were just having fun, swinging some bats around, and we might have accidentally hit some glass windows and broke them. Oops. So you vandalized the property? Colleen, this is unacceptable. And you find it amusing? Chill, Grandma. There were no cameras around and we were wearing masks and baseball caps the whole time. I had my hair up in a bun under the cap. I would pass for a guy. That is reckless behavior, Colleen. You should take responsibility for it. Yeah, take responsibility, Colleen. Maybe you need to chill. Well, maybe I will call up and leave them an anonymous tip. You are a weak old woman who does not have the guts to do any of that. Anyway, we're going to my room. I could not believe the person Colleen had turned into. It felt like she was slipping away, becoming someone I did not recognize. The joyful granddaughter I once knew was now replaced with someone distant and unpredictable. I felt torn between contacting Lucy and telling her about Colleen's recent escapades and, on the other hand, protecting Colleen like we were wearing masks and baseball hats, hiding from the truth. I decided not to confront Lucy and expose Colleen immediately. Instead, I needed a way to make her realize the gravity of her actions. The next day, a Saturday, I had plans to visit a friend for dinner. The evening went surprisingly well, and my friend and I enjoyed a lovely dinner, catching up on life and sharing laughter. It was a brief escape from the growing concerns I had about Colleen. When I returned home, it was already late, around 10 p.m. As I approached my house, something caught my eye. 4 suitcases were neatly arranged on the sidewalk in front of my home. Confused and concerned, I wondered what had happened. I cautiously opened one of the suitcases and found my clothes packed haphazardly inside. I stepped into the house and found Colleen and Carl snuggling on the couch watching TV without a worry in the world. "Colleen, what on earth happened here? Who packed my suitcases and left them outside?" "Oh, those. Consider it your eviction notice, Grandma. I've had enough of you cramping my style." "Eviction? This is my house, Colleen. What has gotten into you?" "Your house? Please. It's time for you to move on, Grandma. This place is mine now, and yes, Carl has moved in too. We both will be staying here, and we don't want you bothering us." "Colleen, you can't just throw me out like this. What's going on?" "What's going on is that I want my own space. I can't live with someone so old-fashioned. You should be in a retirement home, or even better, dead." "Colleen, your parents would be ashamed of the person you have become if they saw this." "Can you just leave? No one wants to listen to your old person shit anymore. This house belongs to us now, and right now we want to watch TV in peace." "You know, Grandma, it is amusing how you believed you could control everything, but guess what? I have this house now. You have already footed the bill for my college, and thanks for that, by the way." "Colleen, why are you doing this? We can talk about it and work things out." "Talk? There's nothing left to talk about. You were just a pawn in all of this, Grandma, a convenient source of money, and I'm done using you, so now I don't need you." "I raised you after your parents passed away. I thought we had a bond." "Bond? This was never about bonding, Grandma. It was about survival, and now I don't need you for that anymore." "I never thought you would turn against me like this." "Well, welcome to reality, Grandma. Life is not a fairy tale, and family isn't everything. You are going to regret this. You are going to come begging to me." "Ha! We will see about that." To all my fellow grandmas out there, you would understand the immense strength it takes to look your grandchild in the eye and say, "You're going to regret this." But I'd had enough. After everything I had done for Colleen, the way she treated me and kicked me out of my own house was beyond belief. I was not going to involve the police. Instead, I called a cab, booked a hotel room for just one night. I knew Colleen would come back to me after the move I was about to make. The following day, having accepted my new reality, I slept in. As the sun rose, I picked up the phone and dialed Lucy's number. "Hey, Lorelei, how's it going?" "Lucy, I need to talk to you. I heard about the vandalism in the college." "Yeah, Colleen must have told you. We have not got any leads so far because there were not any cameras in that particular area, but the security has been looking into footage from all over the college, and it seems like 2 students who were wearing masks and caps to hide their identity have done it." "Colleen did not just tell me that. She also confessed to breaking the windows, and she did it with this student, Carl." "What? I can't believe she'd do something like that." "I'm so sorry on your behalf. It gets worse, Lucy. She has changed so much. After the incident, she kicked me out of my own house." "That's terrible, Lorelei. Where are you right now?" "I'm currently at a hotel. I want her out of that college. I can't let her continue down this destructive path, and I need to show her how things always don't come and go easily." "Lorelei, vandalism is a serious offense. She is going to face many more consequences for that. But for starters, consider her and Carl out of the college." "Thank you, Lucy. She needs a wake-up call, and I hope this is it." After calling Lucy, I sat in the hotel room waiting for things to unfold. I extended my stay just in case, unsure of what would happen next. During that time, I reflected on where I might have gone wrong. Colleen was my granddaughter, and I loved her, but at 21, she was a young adult capable of discerning right from wrong. This was not some rebellious teenage phase she was going through. I had forgiven her when she lied about having a job and spent all the money her parents left behind on luxurious things. I even decided to pay for her college tuition, hoping to provide her with a brighter future. Yet despite all I had done for her, she chose to torment me in my own house, eventually kicking me out just so her boyfriend could move in. As I was reflecting, my phone started ringing and it was obviously Colleen. I cleared my throat and answered her call. "Grandma, why would you do this? Carl and I were told today that we were kicked out of college. I know it was you who ratted us out." "Well, you brought it upon yourself, especially after you threw me out of my own house." "But Grandma, you know, I got rejection letters from everywhere else. This was my only chance. What am I going to do now? I don't even have enough money. I needed that degree for a job. I don't want to be stuck working at Starbucks forever." "You should have considered your choices earlier, and there's more to it. Let's just say I pulled some strings to get you accepted in the first place." "What? Did you talk to someone to put in a good word for me?" "Yes, and look at how you have let me down." "Grandma, I can't believe this. You have ruined my future. Even Carl is furious with me." "I helped you pave the way for your future by paying for your tuition. You decided to waste it all on your own. Now I plan to return home in 2 hours. I expect you to be out by then. What's next? Are you going to call the cops, huh? You have seen what I'm capable of. If you're up for taking a risk, go ahead and find out." Okay, let's calm down. Carl and I will pack our things and leave." 2 hours had passed, and as I pulled up to the house, I noticed Colleen and Carl on the sidewalk, their bags packed, waiting for the taxi. The air was thick with tension. "Well, it seems you're ready to go." "Yeah, thanks to you. You know, on top of everything, we have to do community service. Thanks a lot for making my life a living hell. We have to face the consequences of our actions, Colleen." "We are heading to my parents' place for a while. They'll help us figure things out, unlike you." "You both are very ungrateful. Well, try not to torment them as much as you tormented me." I am living alone now. My thoughts often drift to Colleen. She's an adult responsible for her own decisions. It can be challenging, especially when you're older, trying to be understanding with someone so much younger. You strive to be the bigger person, but everyone has their limits. Worry creeps in, but I remind myself that she has made her choices. Colleen is no longer my responsibility, and I wish her the best to deal with the world, especially with the attitude she has. Hey y'all, I'm Lindsay, 26, female. So here I am doing something I never thought I'd do, sharing a piece of my life on a public platform. Yikes. You see, I'm not one to flaunt things or share personal stuff, but this story is just too spicy not to share. Plus, I don't have many close friends to vent to, so here goes nothing. Let me get a few things straight before I dive into the meat and potatoes of this crazy experience. First, I've changed everyone's names in this story because, well, I don't want anyone potentially tracking me down and exposing me to the wrong people. You can't be too careful these days, especially when you're someone like me. You see, I grew up swimming in money, and I'm not going to lie, I was used to it. But don't get me wrong, I'm not some spoiled prissy brat. The reason I was able to live in luxury and have anything and everything I wanted was because of my dad, Austin, 60, male. He was and still is all about saving money. My dad's frugal behavior is one for the books. He always taught me the value and importance of money. I still remember his words like they were yesterday. The difference between billionaires and millionaires is that we don't spend all willy-nilly. We actually invest and save our money. They can buy yachts, and we can buy the oceans their yachts are on. I didn't even know classism existed amongst the 1%, but apparently it's a thing, LOL. And if it hasn't been clear already, my dad is a billionaire, and I am a billionaire. So despite my upbringing, I'm not the kind of person who shows off. You wouldn't even guess that I have money in the first place, let alone billions of it. I never liked the extra attention that came with it. As soon as people learned I was a billionaire, they'd either try to leech off me or keep their distance, assuming I was some spoiled brat. Hence my lack of close friends, as I mentioned earlier. The lack of friendships and connections I've had really left me desperate for human connection. I guess that's why I fell head over heels when I met Ernest, 28 male. Our paths crossed when I was in Dubai and he was there for business. I was enjoying a little family vacation at one of the hotels my dad owned. Ernest spotted me and, well, he didn't waste any time trying to strike up a conversation. Guess I intrigued the guy. It was the first time a guy was genuinely interested in me, so naturally I was smitten too. We started talking and it felt like we clicked from the very beginning. Ernest was charming, down to earth, and as I would later find out some days later, a millionaire. After a few days of talking, he opened up to me about his wealth. He told me how he was used to gold diggers wanting to be with him just for his money. You know, you're one of the good ones. God, I never thought I'd be able to find someone like you, but yet here you are. You're so down to earth and you're not pretentious, and I'll admit, I was a bit scared to tell you that I'm a millionaire so soon, but I can't help it. You're perfect, and I really feel like fate brought us together. You probably have never seen $1 million in your life, so you're so humble and sweet, and I could marry you right now. You can probably guess where this is going. I decided to lie. I confirmed his obviously wrong conclusions about me, that I was just from your stereotypical middle-class suburban family back home in the States. I even made up a story about winning this vacation through a university trip. Now, I know I was wrong for lying to this man, I'll admit it, but could you blame me? I was so desperate for love, and I was so scared of losing someone who would actually love me for me. Besides, he was a millionaire, so he understood money and the importance of it, or so I thought. So the difference between us wasn't going to be too bad when he eventually found out that I was a billionaire. I decided to keep up with this charade for a little while longer, just so that he wouldn't leave me as soon as he heard I was a billionaire, because I was scared that the tables would turn and he would turn into the gold digger, or even worse, dump me because he couldn't handle and keep up with me. Shout out to the fragility of the male ego. Plus, I wanted him to like me, you all, and he just couldn't stop gushing about how much he loved, how simple and manageable, his words, I was. Now, at the time, I didn't think much of what he was saying, but oh boy, they'd come back to haunt me later. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So Ernest and I started dating, and for a while everything was great, but deep down I felt guilty for not being honest with him about my true wealth. So Ernest and I eventually returned to the States, and we decided to keep in touch. Things were going so well and I was having the time of my life, but there was this nagging guilt that I couldn't shake. I knew I had to reveal the truth to Ernest, but every time I thought about it, I'd get cold feet. Months went by and I still hadn't told him the truth. Meanwhile, Ernest was happier than ever, thinking he'd found the perfect future wife. But I couldn't keep up the facade forever. It was becoming more and more challenging. I even went as far as buying a house that looked pretty basic and middle class, and hiring actors to pretend to be my family members because I hadn't told my father about this relationship. I knew he'd be furious once he found out, and sure enough, he did. One night after a dinner date in the Sky, Ernest made a comment that caught me off guard. You know, you blow my mind every day. How? We just had dinner in the Sky, Lindsay. People don't normally do that sort of thing. Oh, yeah, I suppose not. But you're so calm and laid back. It's like you're not impressed. Oh, no, I am. Of course I am. Thank you for the lovely date. No, trust me, it's a good thing. It's refreshing. I've told you how much I adore your simplicity. It's a nice change of pace. I mean, my dates are normally starstruck, leaving their jaws on the floor whenever we go to the Eiffel Tower for dinner, or when we go ballroom dancing, or go to art auctions, or fly to Prague just to get those delicious pastries, Or heck, even having a little trip on a small basic yacht. It's embarrassing. But you know how to act. You're never like that. You're so calm about everything. You never take advantage of me or act bougie or pretentious, and I love that about you. Thanks, babe. What he didn't know was that I'd done all those things before the age of 10, so I was pretty used to it. But of course, I didn't let on. Then, right at that helipad, he got down on one knee and proposed to me. I was gagged, floored even. And what shocked me even more was that I immediately said yes. The next morning I woke up to a very angry text from my father demanding that I meet him immediately. I had to take a private jet to Cuba that very day to meet him. When I arrived, he was beyond furious. He started reading an article online about how Ernest, a very well-known and established millionaire businessman, was getting married to a mystery woman that nobody knew about. Dad read a direct quote from the article where Ernest said, "I would like to keep my wife's identity private, but just know we are very happy and beyond ecstatic to see where this goes." How the heck did you know it was me? He just laughed, one of those evil villain hearty laughs, and said, "Lindsay, darling, have I taught you nothing? Of course I was going to find out. I'll admit you did a good job hiding it for a while, but I have eyes and ears everywhere. Why did you keep this a secret from me? Is it because you knew I wouldn't approve?" "Yes. I knew you'd tell me to end things." "Well, you're right. I want you to end it immediately. We'll buy their silence. It's okay." "No, Dad. I love this man. You don't understand." I couldn't hold it back anymore and broke down crying. I spilled my heart out, telling him everything, how we met, how much I loved Ernest, and how I was willing to make things work between us. Dad asked me if Ernest knew that I was a billionaire, and I confessed that he didn't. Dad looked even more stressed out and frustrated, but then he asked me if I was certain about going through with this. I couldn't hold back my emotions and affirmed that I was. He finally said he'd support me, but on one condition. He wanted me to sign a prenuptial agreement when we got married. So several months went by, and the wedding preparations were in full swing. Ernest's mom, Myrtle, 57, female, and I hadn't spent any time together before this, mostly because Ernest didn't bring his dates home that often unless it was something serious. Myrtle knew that I had to be someone special for her son to bring me home, let alone marry me. Ernest had told me that his mother was ecstatic to meet me. But when we first met, her initial happiness quickly transformed into complete disgust when she saw me. We had the dinner and Myrtle began grilling me about my life, but not in the typical "I want to see if you're good for my son" kind of way. It was more like, "Are you bougie enough to fit in with us and our brand?" "So, why is it you decided to dress this way tonight? Didn't you know we were having dinner?" "Mom, relax. I'm just asking. I think we need to call your stylist because this won't cut it, sweetie." As the dinner went on, Myrtle's disapproval of me became even more apparent. She kept nagging me, asking me if I had what it takes and telling me that I should do better for my man. This made me furious because I was proud of the way I looked and who I was. When the dinner finally ended, Ernest revealed to me that his mother didn't really like me. No surprise there. He explained that Myrtle was accustomed to a lavish lifestyle and preferred flashy things. Seeing someone like me wasn't what she had envisioned for her son. But he assured me that everything would be okay once we got married, because then Myrtle would see that Ernest was genuinely in love with me. And despite the challenges and the lies, I was determined to make this work and prove that our love was stronger than any preconceived notions. The big day came and Ernest brought up the idea of a prenup the night before. And before you start, I know all that crap about how it's bad luck to see your man the night before the wedding, and maybe you're right, because with the way the story ends, I definitely got some bad juju for not listening to that stupid tradition. Anyways, like I was saying, Ernest brought up signing a prenup. I was low-key grateful for him saying it before I got the chance to say it, because I bet he would have found it super suspicious for me to want a prenup in the first place. It was definitely better for him to suggest it, and then we moved forward. So when he said it, I just agreed. As you can imagine, Ernest was over the moon, thinking I was certainly the one because I went along with the prenup so easily and without any pushback. He saw it as the ultimate test to check if I was genuinely committed or just after his money. The wedding was simple and nice, just what I wanted. I didn't want anything flashy that would give away my family's wealth. Myrtle, of course, wasn't thrilled about the modest celebration. She had hoped for something huge and grand, but Ernest didn't care about that. He said he was just eager to marry me quickly, believing he found the perfect wife. On our wedding night, Ernest spilled the beans that he bought a mansion in a new neighborhood and we were going to spend the rest of our lives there. So that's what we did. We moved from where we were staying before to this new place, and things were going great between us during our honeymoon phase. A couple of months went by and I unfortunately had to face the music. Myrtle started bothering me more frequently than usual. She wanted me to change my appearance for her son, forcing me to wear 6-inch heels on a daily basis, which was definitely not my style. I kept refusing her advice and complained to Ernest. At first he told her to back off, but it didn't last and we would repeat the ugly cycle again, with Myrtle despising me more and more when I would reject her attempts to change who I was. One day Myrtle tried her BS again, giving me backhanded compliments and telling me that I would be better than ever if I just listened to her. As usual, I would tell Ernest to check his mama, but this time things were different. Ernest surprised me by actually agreeing with his mother. I know, right? Like, what the frick? He said, it's about time you started acting, what can I say, proud. Yeah, I think that's the right word. It's about time you started acting proud of me. But I am proud of you. I don't get what my appearance has to do with that. Don't get me wrong, I love the look, babe. It's just you aren't representing me well. I don't want you to be flashy and trashy, but just, dress up a little. Gussy up more often. This revelation bothered me and it made me see our relationship differently. I started to realize that Ernest didn't want a partner to have fun with. He wanted a pretty trophy wife who knew when to stay quiet and not misuse his funds. As time passed, he became less affectionate and more controlling. I began to question everything, but the fear of being alone stopped me from doing anything. I thought I could handle staying with him even though our relationship was losing its warmth and he was becoming more controlling. One day I accidentally stumbled upon Ernest's text where he and his mom were gossiping about me. They were saying I wasn't the right fit for him and I was the opposite of a millionaire's wife. There was even one comment that said I looked too poor to even be considered middle class, and I'll admit that one stung a little. But what hurt me most was that Ernest was actually part of this bullying crap. It was clear to me that Ernest was determined to mold me into something more appealing. Seeing those texts was a major turn-off and I started treating him coldly, which made him act feistier and more resentful because he didn't know that I knew that he was talking smack about me. As I distanced myself more and more, Ernest got shouty, demanding my submission and throwing my middle-class status in my face. According to him, I knew nothing about the life of a millionaire, and he insisted I listen to him if I wanted to survive in his world. If only he knew people like me could eat people like him for breakfast. Feeling trapped, I desperately wanted the old Ernest to come back, to love me fully like I knew he could. But that wasn't happening. He was too far gone in his quest for a perfect Barbie doll wife, and Myrtle wasn't making things any better either. She started openly insulting me, questioning why her son would ever marry someone like me. Ernest went from trying to ignore his mom's hurtful comments about me to low-key agreeing with her and eventually full-on belly laughing when she insulted me right in front of him. Lindsay dear, why on earth did you choose that dress? It makes you look like a frumpy school teacher. God. Yeah, Lindsay, I probably shouldn't say this, but why don't you try dressing more like my mom? You know what? You're right. You should have kept that to yourself. No, he has a point, dear. It's embarrassing. Whatever, Myrtle. And your hair, darling, it's so plain. You really should do something with it. Maybe hire a stylist for once. I mean, you have the money now. There are certainly no excuses. Mom's got a point, you know. A little glam won't hurt. Honestly, Ernest, I can't fathom why you married her. You could have had any woman in the world, someone with a bit more flair. Flair? Yeah. Lindsay, maybe you should take some notes from Bella Hadid or Kim Kardashian. I mean, just look at her son. She's not even trying. Can't you see what a mistake you've made? Mom, you're too much. But seriously, Lindsay, you should definitely consider a makeover. Spice things up a bit. I was sick of it all and didn't know what to do, so I decided to call my father. He asked about my married life, but I hesitated. The plan was for me to spill the beans, to tell him he was right about everything and move back home. But I didn't want to burden him with the trash that was my marriage. And also, I didn't want to admit that I had failed. I mean, it had been a year and I was ready to call it quits. It would be a huge hit to my ego, and he probably would have started World War III if he knew how miserable I was. Dad asked again if everything was okay. I lied and said everything was fine. He was suspicious, of course, but he told me he was always a call away if things went south. He threatened to make Ernest and his family suffer if they ever treated me poorly. If only he knew. I thanked him and then I hung up. I felt like I owed it to myself and my dad to try, so I decided to start trying harder to please Ernest and Myrtle, thinking maybe, just maybe, I'd get their approval if I obeyed their wishes. In just a month, I transformed myself to fit the mold of those bougie housewives from TV, all the while still trying to be quiet and demure, as Myrtle would say all the time. I was like a sexy little mouse, honestly. I was sure that these two would finally appreciate me and care for me. When I tell you I had a complete makeover, I'm saying I was looking like I could live in the hills. You'd think this would finally please Ernest and Myrtle, but nope. Not a nod of acknowledgement for all the efforts I put into changing myself physically and socially. They just found more ways to tear me down, and I couldn't figure out why they were still being so mean. One day during Myrtle's usual weekly visits to see her son, and I guess continue her insult parade, I snapped. I yelled at Ernest and Myrtle, calling them heartless and unreasonable for the crap they were pulling me through. And then Myrtle started shouting back, telling me she never liked me and wished something tragic could happen to get me out of their lives forever. Since we're laying our cards on the table, Lindsay, I've always despised you. You're so annoying and your poorness makes me sick. I literally haven't done anything to make you hate me. I'm sorry you're a miserable bigot and you have about as much emotional intelligence as Hitler. Hitler? That's it? Ernest, I'm kicking your wife out of this house. Even the maid's bathroom is worth more than this worthless cockroach. Excuse me? Did you say you're kicking me out? Yep, and Ernest isn't opposed to it one bit, are you, Ernest? I think everyone needs a little space. See? He agrees with me. This isn't some charity case, okay? People like you can't be here. Then she went to the window and pointed at a huge mansion that was recently renovated across the road and said, "If you want, you can go and ask them for help. Seems like they have more than enough money to go around, so they'll happily donate you some money since you're poor, ugly, and desperate. Nobody wants you here. So you need to go right now. Go and grovel and beg people for help and money, since that's where you belong." After Myrtle finished her insult marathon, telling me to go beg the people in the big mansion for help, that's when I smirked and spilled the tea. I revealed that they'd happily donate anything I asked for because, surprise, my dad owned that mansion. Myrtle and Ernest laughed, calling me crazy for such a wild claim. Myrtle spilled that some billionaire had recently bought and renovated the house for some reason, and that it was insulting to ever associate myself with the likes of him. I cut her off, showing a picture of me and my dad chilling on the beach, and their faces turned ghostly pale. "This is the guy you're talking about?" Myrtle finally gathered herself, asked how I knew this man and had a picture with him. Oh, Myrtle, you poor pathetic woman, you don't know what you've just done. I dropped the bomb, confessing I was Austin's daughter and a billionaire. Myrtle started crazy laughing. She was in denial, so I couldn't really blame her, but Ernest looked pissed. He started cursing and saying that there was no way Austin was my dad. So guess what I did, you all? I strolled right down to that mansion across the street, called my dad out, and he emerged after a couple of minutes, looking a bit embarrassed. How did you figure it out, kiddo? I found it odd how there was some billionaire who had randomly decided to renovate this perfectly good mansion with all of the things my dad seemed to like a tennis court, golf course. It was crazy to me. At first I thought it couldn't be you. You're way too frugal for that. But then I remembered that you're also crazy and crazy rich, so you can do whatever you want. Also, you're not the only one who has friends in high places, so I knew it was you. Well played, kiddo, well played. I guess you are my daughter after all, so your being smart was just bound to happen. I just wanted to make sure my baby girl was all right. I knew you were lying when you talked a month ago, so I just had to come here and keep an eye on you. But of course I had to add a little taste to this godforsaken place. And in the span of 2 weeks, no less? Sounds like a very Austin thing to do. You know that I'll combust if I don't play tennis or golf. I was planning on staking out here for a while, so I had to make myself comfortable. Ernest and Myrtle were left outside their home. Their faces a mix of disbelief and shock, like they'd just seen Jesus walking by. I shot them a cheeky flip-off before sauntering into the mansion to have a cozy chat with my father. Dad wasn't wasting any time. He demanded the lowdown right then and there, and I spilled the beans on how I'd been treated like garbage during the past year, all because I thought I was in love. He let me drone on and on about how I tried my best with them, and without saying a word, Dad marched up to Myrtle and Ernest, who was still standing outside. I watched from the window. I couldn't hear the specifics, obviously, but I knew Dad was throwing around some serious threats. Ernest hit his knees. Myrtle started crying, hunching over her son like she just witnessed the apocalypse. She started shouting how sorry she was and saying that she wanted to come over to me and apologize, but my dad told her to stay in her lane. I could now hear some parts of the conversation because I stepped outside to get a better look, and Dad was marching his way back over. I could hear her say, "Oh God, I'm so sorry, Lindsay. I'm so sorry." I'm still trying to get my dad to tell me what he told them to make them crumble so fast, but my dad told me that he'd never tell. Spooky, I know. But all I cared about was that the mission was accomplished. I was no longer tied to those awful people, and what's worse, they were embarrassed and scared, and let me tell you, there's no better revenge. My name is Bibi and I'm 32. Let me start off this story time by saying I'm super grateful for this platform, because what I'm about to share is something I've kept under wraps for way too long. You see, everything remains anonymous here, and I need that because revealing this story might put me in some serious trouble. But I just had to vent, and part of me feels like my story might be able to help someone, so here goes. As you have probably seen from the title, it turns out I dodged a massive bullet when I decided not to marry my fiancé, Miguel. And it all boils down to one person, my mother-in-law, Judith. I know that these stories tend to be a bit more on the anti-mother-in-law hate train, but let me tell you, if this woman did not treat me like complete garbage, I don't know where I would be in this life. And I am grateful for everything she did for me. Okay, enough sappiness. Let me get into it. At first, things were all sunshine and rainbows between Judith, my mother-in-law, and me when I was dating her son, Miguel. She was the sweetest thing and always so kind to me. It felt like I'd hit the jackpot with the perfect future mother-in-law. She was always assuring me of her love for me, telling me I was like the daughter she never had. She has 8 sons, woof. And to be fair, she was like a second mother to me, considering I wasn't all too close with mine at all. It seemed like everything was going pretty smoothly on my end. I had a rich boyfriend who loved me to bits and an equally caring mother-in-law. What more could a girl ask for? Like I said, things were swell until they weren't. You see, Miguel had proposed to me after dating for several months, and guess where? Madison Square Garden, no less. I mean, it was epic, and I thought we were on top of the world. We were surrounded by all our friends and family, and I noticed when I was scanning the crowd that Judith looked weird. She wasn't smiling and cheering like the others. Instead, she looked sad, almost bewildered. And I don't know why. I thought that maybe she had a tummy bug, or maybe she just got a bad text or something. Whatever. I was trying to enjoy the moment, so I went back to being present with my new fiancé. Even though I chalked up my mother-in-law's weirdness to other factors when I had approached her a couple of days ago, after settling down into fiancé life, she was still acting odd. But even worse this time, because it was laced with rudeness too. What the frick? She became distant and a bit snarky. She was treating me like I was some annoying, dirty kid that no one wanted to play with at the playground, and I just didn't get it. Considering the week before we were chums, what gives? Why was she seemingly mad that I was now her son's fiancé? It was weird. I mean, who wouldn't want to share the joy of their son's proposal? But the way things went down, it was like a switch flipped in her, and our relationship took a nosedive, and I didn't know what I could do about it. As any fiancé would, I told Miguel about what was going on because I wanted to get to the bottom of this nonsense. "Are you sure about this, babe? My mom is literally in love with you. She's always been so kind and warm to you. Why would she treat you like this out of the blue?" "That's what's beating me, babe. I just don't get it. I was meant to go to her place to bake some cookies for that charity drive I told you about. But she cancelled on me, saying that she'd rather do everything herself." Interesting. Interesting? I just mean it's a bit strange. She used to be so sweet and we got along so well. But recently she's been so distant and a little rude. I really can't put my finger on it. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Thanks, babe. I just miss the days when we all got along so well. It's been a bit uncomfortable lately. A couple of days passed, and just when I thought things might be getting back to normal, I started receiving anonymous texts from someone. All the text ever said was, "Leave that man if you know what's good for you." Creepy, right? Of course, I blocked the number, but then I'd get another text from a new unknown number saying the same thing. And then another, and then another. It was freaking me out big time. I wanted to immediately tell Miguel about it, obviously, so I made my way down to the kitchen, which is where he was at 11 p.m. for some reason. But something stopped me dead in my tracks. I was about to find him in the kitchen, and that's when I overheard him speaking on the phone. Miguel was talking in Spanish, which I didn't understand. But then I heard him say my name, and eventually I heard him say, "She can't ever find out. That's why I'm marrying her." What the heck? I couldn't make heads or tails of whatever the hell he was saying. What was he hiding from me, and why? It pissed me off that he might be keeping secrets from me. It gave me a really bad feeling, and I didn't like it one bit. So you know what I did? In my pettiness, I decided to keep those mysterious text messages a secret from my fiancé, since it seemed like he had his own secrets to hide. So the next day, I couldn't help but be a bit cold and standoffish towards Miguel, considering what I had overheard last night. I was hoping he would notice my mood and decide to tell me whatever he was hiding. But in typical male fashion, he seemed pretty oblivious. He was genuinely confused by my behavior, wondering what was going on. He had asked me multiple times, and in typical female fashion, I said nothing and proceeded to act snotty and petty. Eventually, Miguel, in an attempt to make things right, decided that it would be best if me and Judith rekindled our bond and squashed whatever beef was going on between us, since it was clearly affecting my mood. I was opposed to the idea, obviously, but before I could say anything, Miguel had already texted his mother, telling her to come over and saying it was important. Not long after, Judith arrived, and when she saw me, her expression looked like she'd seen a ghost. It was as if she was so scared of me, and I couldn't understand why. But then, in a flash, Judith's fear quickly turned to anger, and she started mistreating me, saying all sorts of awful things. She went as far as telling me that I didn't deserve to marry Miguel. Miguel finally yelled at his mother and told her to stop, and Judith immediately shut up. You might be wondering why Miguel's head wasn't put on a pike immediately after yelling at his mother like that, but let me tell you, things were a bit different in the Isaac household. Let me give you the lowdown on Miguel's family dynamics. You see, he came from a pretty traditional Spanish family where women were always considered second-class citizens, even to a 5-year-old son. It was like having sons was the holy grail or something. So Miguel, talking to his mother that way was, well, just the way things were in his family. Women weren't respected, which was very sad. This isn't me saying that all traditional Spanish-speaking households are like this. Rather, there are some old practices in certain traditional families that need to be cut out. Please don't cancel me. I didn't like it one bit, and I'd often reprimand him for being so crass towards his mother. But Miguel would just tell me that I'd never understand their relationship dynamic, and he would go on being rude. In instances like this, when Miguel would yell at Judith in front of me, I would always stand up for my mother-in-law. Maybe that was the reason why we got along so well. But this time, I didn't stand up for her. I know it was a rotten thing to do. I was angry, confused, and hurt by the way Judith had treated me in the past weeks, so I decided to get my lick back a little. But it didn't make me feel good, not one bit, even though she was doing me so dirty and treating me like a fake friend. Judith looked like she wanted to cry, so she mumbled an excuse about needing water and hurried to the kitchen. Feeling bad at this point, I rushed after her, putting my pride aside, because I still genuinely cared for Judith. This was also a good opportunity to corner her and get to the bottom of why she was treating me like a cockroach when I was supposed to be her future daughter-in-law. Judith, can we talk for a minute? Are you okay? Why are you here? I live here. Stop being so rude to me. What the hell is wrong with you? What do you want, child? I need to know why you've been treating me so rudely lately, and why you never congratulated me on the engagement. It's almost like you hate me now. Oh, get over yourself, Bibi. I don't hate you. I just don't care for you. You're not important, and you're not good enough for my son. You should just leave while you still can. I think there's something deeper going on. You used to like me, and now it's like you can't stand me. What did I do to you? I just don't like you anymore. You're just not a good person in my eyes. That's BS, Judith. I demand the truth right now. At this point, Judith's mask was slipping, and she was getting a bit frantic. Instead of looking and acting like Cruella de Vil, there was a silence, and then she whispered, "You'd leave that man if you knew what was good for you." And that's when it clicked. Wait a minute, that sounds familiar. Those are the exact same anonymous texts I've been getting. It was you, Judith. Why would you do that? Do you know how scared I was? I don't know what's going on, but it's gone on far enough. Cut the crap. You what, Judith? Tell me, what the hell is all this for? Why are you treating me this way? I can't. Then Miguel's footsteps were getting closer to the kitchen, and we heard him say, "What's going on here?" I heard shouting, "Mom, I swear to God, if you can't control yourself, I'm going to have to ask you to leave." And just like that, Judith turned back to her mean self, yelling at me, calling me all sorts of names and bullying me. As Miguel promised, he escorted her outside the home, calling her an Uber to take her back to her apartment, and I was left there in the kitchen wondering if I was being punked. This family drama was getting more complicated by the second, and it didn't look like it was going to calm down anytime soon. I was scared of what that might have meant for my marriage. So the day of the wedding was quickly approaching, and Miguel, being a rich man who liked luxurious things, was showering me with gifts and buttering me up for the big day. I was still quite angry with him since he was clearly keeping a secret from me, but I didn't mind the gifts. In fact, I was starting to think that maybe the secret he was keeping from me was just a huge surprise he had in store for our wedding, and that I was being paranoid because his awful mother was treating me like crap. Judith was hounding me with texts. She'd continuously ask if the wedding was still on. When I asked her why she was asking, Judith would reply with something rude or snarky, saying something along the lines of, "So that I know whether to drink my sorrows or celebrate, because I don't want you in my life anymore." I was getting seriously pissed off by this point. It was becoming unbearable, and I was actually contemplating disinviting Judith from the wedding altogether. I couldn't take it anymore, so I told Miguel about it. But when I did, he didn't seem too pleased. "Miguel, look at the crap your mother is sending me. Can you believe it?" That's actually pretty clever. I gotta use that. "Babe!" I'm kidding. "I can't take it anymore. You have to disinvite your mother from the wedding. I've decided." "What? Baby, I can't do that. She's my mother, for God's sake." "I don't care, Miguel. She's making my life a living hell, and I can't stand her anymore, and it doesn't seem like she's listening to you, so what are we going to do? This is the only solution." "I think you're being a bit rash, babe. Let's talk about this." "What is there to talk about? Do you love me?" "Yes, of course." "Then act like it. Disinvite her from the wedding. She clearly doesn't want to be there anyway, and I don't want her to ruin our day." "Baby, you know I love you, but I also love my mother. I can't just disinvite her." "Miguel, do you? Because the way you talk to her says otherwise." "What the hell did you just say to me?" "You heard me." And that's when the argument escalated even further. We were screaming at each other at this point, and it felt like our relationship was hanging by a thread. This drama was spiraling out of control, and I didn't know if we'd make it to the wedding day in one piece. And it was all because of that lady. I was hating her by the minute. So that night, after our big fight, Miguel and I slept in different rooms. I couldn't stop crying, feeling like our relationship was falling apart. But then I had a not-so-bright idea. I thought, if I have to suffer, then so should my mother-in-law. So at 2 a.m. I started spam calling her phone, even though I knew she was probably sleeping. When Judith finally answered the phone, I started shouting and cursing at her, telling her that I was going to treat her the way her son treated her, since that's what she seemed to want and what she seemed to respect. I don't know if it was the sleepiness in her voice or what, but she sounded so sad and defeated, and I couldn't help but feel bad for my bully for some strange reason. I cried and told her that I had always been nice to her, but I wasn't going to play nice anymore, and I'd see her on the wedding day, and that I was prepared for whatever BS she was going to come with, because I was so sick of the constant hot and cold behavior from her. Judith sounded a bit distraught on the phone, like she wanted to say something, but she couldn't find the words. She kept muttering, "It's not safe, it's not safe." And I demanded to know what she meant, but Judith refused to fess up to whatever it was she was hiding. Frustrated, I hung up the phone, promising never to speak to her again. A few more days had passed and the wedding day was drawing closer. But me and Miguel still hadn't resolved our issues. We were passing by each other in silence in the house, and it was starting to feel like we were housemates and not fiancés. Finally, I had enough, as if I hadn't already. I couldn't take the drama and BS any longer, so I snapped and yelled, "I'm sick and tired of everything. I demand to know the truth." "What truth?" "Cut the crap, Miguel." "I don't know what you're talking about." "You know exactly what I'm talking about. I overheard you talking to someone in the kitchen some nights ago, and I want to know what's going on. It's bad enough that my future mother-in-law is treating me like crap and acting shady, and now you too?" At those words, Miguel's whole face changed. He looked both angry and strangely calm, and it sent shivers down my spine. I'd never seen anyone look so scary before. What's wrong?" Miguel, now livid, accused me of eavesdropping on him and invading his privacy. Huh? I insisted, how that wasn't fair and he was deflecting and I demanded to know the truth. But instead of revealing anything, Miguel just kept getting angrier and he began breaking things in the house. And not just throwing things off the coffee table. He was smashing lamps against the wall and the shards were scattered everywhere. I was so scared, you guys. I was stuck, frozen in place as I watched him destroy so many things in the house. And in that moment, when I saw Miguel's anger and violence, I knew that I could never marry a man like that. It was a terrifying realization. I couldn't live my life in fear and chaos. I slowly made my way upstairs, determined to pack some of my most important things and leave as quickly as possible. Miguel was so blinded by his rage and destruction that he didn't even notice me sneaking out of the house. I quietly got into my car and decided to leave, leaving the engagement ring on the bathroom sink. I was crying as I drove to my mother's house. I needed to make sense of everything that had just happened, but I didn't even know where to begin. As I was on my way to my mother's house, I decided to make a call to my mother-in-law, Judith. I needed to let her know that I had finally taken steps she seemed to have wanted all along, calling off the wedding. I was taken aback by how happy Judith sounded on the other end of the phone. She actually said that this was the best thing that could have happened. I was about to curse at her, calling her evil for being so happy at my downfall, but then she dropped a bombshell. Judith told me that she wanted to meet in a private park somewhere close to where I was driving to discuss something important. She told me that when I arrived, I had to leave my phone in the car, which was strange. I was reluctant, of course, considering everything that had happened, but my curiosity got the best of me. I needed answers about why she and Miguel had been acting so strangely and why they were trying to drive me to madness. So I took a detour to meet her in the park as we had discussed. I waited for about 30 minutes or so and finally Judith appeared wearing the biggest smile on her face. She told me that she was so proud of me, leaving me completely confused. I really wanted to throw hands, but I decided to be classy, so I demanded an explanation instead. I told her that this would be the last time I would ask her this, warning her that I would leave for good if she didn't spill the beans, and that's when Judith began to unravel the truth. "Bibi, you have to understand that everything I did to you, I did it for a reason. Miguel, oh God save him, Miguel is not a good person. Ever since his father died, we've been through hell trying to survive. We busted our asses trying to come to America. But it wasn't easy. My sons turned to a life of crime, and Miguel, being one of the youngest, was the most impressionable. Whether it was stealing, committing fraud, selling drugs, or becoming pimps. My sons have all done something terrible for the sake of money, and I don't like it one bit. But Miguel, I think he's the worst of them all. He's so ruthless. I tried my best to steer them towards the right path, but they kept choosing crime." My jaw was practically on the floor. Miguel doing crime? Is that where all this money was from? The reason I was so mean to you, Bibi, was because I wanted you to leave him before it was too late. You see, I know Miguel was planning on doing something terrible to you because he's been married 3 times before and all his wives mysteriously died on their wedding night. My heart sank at her words, and my mind struggled to process the horrific revelation. This was beyond anything I could have imagined, and I felt all my hair stand on end. I demanded more details, needing to know everything. Judith's confession had unraveled a dark web of secrets that had entangled me in ways I couldn't understand. I sat there, stunned and horrified, as Judith continued to reveal the nightmarish truth about Miguel. She explained that she suspected that Miguel's crimes were far worse than she initially thought. All 3 of his previous wives had tragically died on their wedding nights, and it had always seemed suspicious to her. It wasn't until the last marriage that I realized it couldn't be a coincidence. Miguel must have been responsible for his wife's deaths. I've been so scared, Bibi, but I wanted to save you before it was too late. I couldn't properly confront Miguel because I was afraid of what might happen to me or you or anyone for that matter. He's so unpredictable. I know you've only been introduced to kind and composed Miguel, but I'm telling you, he's much worse. I didn't want to tell you the truth over the phone or through text because I believe Miguel has all our phones tapped. That's why I told you to leave your phone in the car." She went on to express how sad she was for the way I had found out, but she was relieved that she had been able to save at least one of the many girls Miguel had undoubtedly hurt. I was left speechless, unable to comprehend the depths of Miguel's dark secrets. Judith begged me to pack up everything I knew and loved and move far away, just in case Miguel tried to find me. I revealed that Miguel had become violent back home, which is why I left him behind, and Judith wasn't surprised. She told me that he had always been a violent person, and it was only a matter of time before he turned that violence towards me. 3 years have passed since that day, and I have not heard from Miguel or Judith again. I was relieved to have escaped, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't still haunted by the memories of everything. I couldn't let Miguel continue to harm innocent women, so I decided to take matters into my own hands. I penned several anonymous letters talking about his dark past and warning other women to stay away from a man who fits Miguel's description. The letter was posted in tabloids, newspapers, and on various online forums. My hope was that it would reach the eyes and ears of potential victims, preventing them from falling prey to his deceitful schemes. Hey guys, I'm Vanessa, 34, female. Growing up, I always appreciated and admired my mom, Vicky. She was a single mother who had to work 2 jobs just to make ends meet and support me and my older brother, Victor. It wasn't easy for her, but she managed to overcome all the odds that were stacked against her. My mother was a hard worker and a strong, resilient woman. She didn't let the difficulties of life hold her back. I saw how much she was struggling and would try to help out wherever I could, even from a young age. I started doing odd jobs as early as 12, trying to lighten her load. She always appreciated my help, even though I was bringing in peanuts compared to what she was bringing home, and that made me feel like I was doing something important. Victor, on the other hand, seemed to be resentful towards our mother. He never appreciated all that she did for us, always blaming her for our less than lavish lifestyle. This would lead to countless arguments between Victor and me. I'd tell him he was being ugly and rude, but he just couldn't seem to see the sacrifices our mom was making for our sake. But my mother would always tell me not to worry about Victor. She would say that she was so grateful to have me around to help her out. It was her way of acknowledging the love and support I provided, even as a young girl. Fast forward to when Victor turned 18. He left the house, eager to escape the life we had with my mother. Tragically, this departure would have consequences that changed our world forever. You see, my mother had a terrible workplace accident due to hazardous work environment. This accident left her paralyzed, unable to work or care for herself. We lost our house, as she could no longer afford it, and I had to live with her cousin for some time. Victor, in his pursuit of being rich and hating the lifestyle that my mom provided us, managed to secure a decent place for himself. He had a roof over his head and had enough space to house our mother, but the question that lingered was whether he would be willing to take care of her. As my brother Victor begrudgingly accepted the responsibility of taking care of our paralyzed mother, it was clear that he wasn't happy about it. He never openly admitted his resentment, but it hung in the air, casting a shadow over our family dynamics. Victor knew that he would look like a complete a-hole if he refused to take care of our ailing mother, so he did what he had to do to save face, albeit with an air of unwillingness that never went unnoticed. It was exhausting dealing with his groaning. Time passed and I turned 18. I wasn't as fortunate as Victor, who had managed to climb pretty high in his career, securing a stable financial position for himself. He could even afford to hire a nanny who would look after our mother. He'd also installed various paraplegic-friendly devices in the house to make her life easier. I was excited to celebrate my 18th birthday, but on that very day, Victor had a different plan for me. He told me that it was now my turn to take care of our mother. Can you imagine? It wasn't a gentle or kind request. Instead, it felt like an order. This led to a nasty argument between us, and it was a long time coming because I was sick of his attitude. This fight had been brewing since we were kids. I refused to accept my brother's orders, and I questioned his sense of responsibility and compassion. The argument between Victor and me escalated quickly. I couldn't fathom how he could so easily dismiss his mother like she didn't do everything for him, given his financial stability and the fact that he had already modified his house for her special needs. My emotions got the best of me, and I called him evil and selfish. You know, I'm not swimming in money like you. You know that it makes sense for Mom to continue to stay with you, Victor. You can afford it, and your house is already set up for her. What the hell is your problem? You're the one who's acting evil and selfish here, Vanessa. You don't want to take her in. Look who's being a bad child now. I was beyond frustrated, and I knew that there was no getting through to that thick skull of his. Listen here, you douchebag. The moment I make enough money, I swear on my life I'll take Mom in. You know I love her, and you know I can't ever forget the crap she's been through. I can't believe you're treating her like this when you have the means to help her. Oh, cut the crap, Vanessa. You're so dramatic. It's your turn to take care of her, and that's that. She did so much for us, Victor. You should be more grateful. But Victor was unyielding, brushing off what I was saying. Well, she could have worked harder just like I did. Look at me. I've got money now. You should do the same. You're a pig, and you're lazy just like your mother. I can't believe someone so kind gave birth to a monster like you. Yeah, whatever. Look, I guess you're kind of right about having the facilities to take care of Mom, so yeah, it looks like I will continue to take care of her for a while. But you better believe the second you're on your feet, you'll take her in with you. Got it? Over the years, my relationship with my brother, Victor, deteriorated further, and I found myself unable to share the awful and nasty things he said about our mother with her. I kept this painful secret to myself because I couldn't bear to break her heart with the truth. Whenever I visited my mom in Victor's home, I carried the weight of guilt, knowing what Victor truly felt about his mother. It was heartbreaking to witness the disconnect between them, especially since Vicky tried so hard to love Victor even when he treated her so poorly. Vicky and I, on the other hand, were growing closer than ever. We bonded over everything, and she was so proud of the woman I was becoming. I became her confidant, the one she could lean on when Victor distanced himself. She'd complain to me about the lack of communication from her son, and I could only console her, assuring her that everything would eventually be all right. Vanessa, I just don't understand what's going on with Victor. I don't know what I did to make him hate me. You did nothing wrong, Mom. It's him. He's always been the problem. But I can't help but blame myself. He's been treating our relationship like some exhausting task, and this was before the accident. He's so distant, and he barely talks to me. He just leaves everything to Maria, the nanny. I've tried everything to reach out to him, but it's like he doesn't care. Mom, it's not your fault. You've done everything a loving mother could do. Some people are just the way that they are, and that there isn't much you can do to change them. I know it's hard to accept, but it's his choice to be this way. But he's my son, and I love him so much. I just want our family to be close and happy. I know, Mom, I want that too, but sometimes we can't change people no matter how much we love them. We can only control our own actions and how we treat others. I'm so grateful for you, Vanessa. You've been my rock through all of this. I don't know what I'd do without you. Mom, I love you more than words can express. You mean the world to me, and I'll always be here for you no matter what. Several years went by and I was turning 32 years old, and by this point I was happily married and we had just moved into our big, beautiful home. I was so proud of everything I had accomplished to get me to that point. We were having a little housewarming party, and of course Victor and my mom were invited. When they arrived, it seemed like everything was going to go well. That was until the party was winding down and my idiot brother had the bright idea to make an announcement to everyone. Attention, attention everyone. Yes, thank you. Today is a very special day. My sister is making quite the name for herself, and I couldn't be more proud. She's such a smart, talented young lady, and I wish her and her husband nothing but the best with their future endeavors. May this house be filled with children, happiness, and memories. But I will say, I have an announcement to make. As you all know, I've been taking care of Vicky since I was 18, and it's been great. But I now pass on the mantle to my baby sister, just like how we talked about all those years ago. It seems like you're now ready to take on this responsibility, so hear, hear, everybody. Congrats once again, Vanessa. I was left in shock by Victor's abrupt announcement, and I wasn't the only one. Everyone was shifting uncomfortably in their seats, and my mom had to roll away and excuse herself to most likely cry in the bathroom. I obviously didn't forget our agreement. While I had always been willing to take on this role, I couldn't believe how thoughtless he had been in his approach. It felt intentional, actually, embarrassing Mom like that. There was no excuse for his poor behavior, and I was disgusted. I tried my best to do some damage control, telling our guests that they needn't worry about anything and that the party should resume as normal. I then went to check on my mother, and sure enough, she was sobbing in the bathroom, which broke my heart. I hugged her and started apologizing, telling her I was sorry for keeping this a secret from her and promising to murder Victor in his sleep. She also echoed the same sentiments I had about Victor's desire to embarrass us in front of everyone. Something was seriously wrong with that boy. He could have spoken to me privately, explained his reasons, and discussed the transition with me. Instead, he chose to make a spectacle of it in front of our mother. I jokingly asked her if she had dropped him on his head when he was a baby, and she said that she must have because there was no other explanation for this. We laughed for a bit, and after she was feeling better, we made our way back to resume the festivities. Then the guests started to leave, and this fake smile that I had plastered on my face was falling apart and was being replaced by the anger I had. My anger flared once the last guest left, and I was ready to let all hell loose on Victor because I couldn't contain my frustration. I shouted at Victor, calling him out for his insensitivity and selfishness. It was painfully clear that Victor hadn't changed at all, and his priorities were still driven by his own interests rather than our mother's well-being. How pathetic. Victor, how could you just spring this on Mom like that in front of everyone? You could have talked to me privately, but instead you had to make her feel like she was a burden. She's your mother and she doesn't deserve this kind of treatment. What is wrong with you? Vanessa, I've been taking care of her for years, and it's time for you to step up and do your part. I have my own life to live, and I can't be responsible for her all the time. I never said I wouldn't take care of her. I love Mom, and I'm more than willing to have her live with us. But you could have handled this with more sensitivity. She's been through so much already, and she doesn't deserve to be treated like this. Oh, here we go again with the dramatics. You sound like you're 18 again. Grow up. Victor, baby, I don't appreciate how you've been treating me. I understand that you didn't ask for any of this. You're right, I didn't. And I appreciate you taking care of me for all these years, but what you did was just classless and rude. You didn't have to embarrass us like that, and especially not during such a celebration. Honestly, get it together. You're a mess. Oh, I'm a mess. Okay then, let me get out of your hair. You know what? I'm glad that I'm finally getting rid of you. Do you know what I could have done with all the money I've spent on you? You're sick. You know that? Maybe, but I don't care anymore. I don't care if I'm the villain in your story, okay? I've done my part. Besides, it's not like she's going to have a huge inheritance anyway. If I were to guess, it's 20 grand, right, Mom? I noticed my mom's eyes widen for a moment, and she hesitated before responding. Yep, only $20,000. I found it very suspicious, but I didn't react. You see, taking care of her is too much work for only $20,000. I deserve more. But obviously, I'm not going to get that. So, yeah, good luck taking care of her. I'll send you her nanny's number. Get the hell out of my house and don't come back. You hear me? You don't have to tell me twice. I'm out of here. After Victor left, I was left alone with Vicky. It was clear that she was thrilled to be under my care and protection. I held her in my arms, vowing that she would never have to suffer again. I wanted to give her the love and security she had always deserved. 1 year had passed and we hadn't heard a word from Victor. It seemed like he was off living the high life, going on exotic trips and drinking fancy cocktails while we were working on building a stable and happy life together. I was still seething with anger at my brother for his selfish behavior, but Mom had a more positive outlook. One day she had a glimmer in her eye, hinting that she had a secret to share. My curiosity piqued. I prodded her until she couldn't keep it in any longer. She revealed something astonishing. She was secretly rich. My mom explained that after her unfortunate accident, she had taken her former employer to court, seeking justice for the unsafe work environment that had caused her harm. It was a legal battle that I remembered well, and she had tried to sue them. But the case hadn't gone her way. Yes, well, if you remember, after I lost the case, there were some stories floating around about it. Yeah, it was all over Facebook, I remember. Right. Well, there's something I need to tell you, something I've kept hidden for a while now. It all began about a year ago when I received a phone call out of the blue. The person on the other end said that they knew about my lawsuit against my former employer, even though I had lost that case many years ago. They told me how sad it was to see someone like me, a single mother struggling to make ends meet, losing to the big man. Really, Mom? Who was this person and why were they contacting you after all these years? Well, Vanessa, he's a billionaire. And just like me, he's paralyzed due to an accident he had a couple of years ago. Ever since then, he said he's been on a mission trying to help people like him, since he obviously has the means to do so. A billionaire? And he wants to help you? Is he Bruce Wayne? Apparently so. He said he had a deep sympathy for people like us, and he couldn't bear to see my story in the media. The articles mentioned how I was working in dangerous jobs just to provide for you and Victor. Wow, Mom, that is so crazy. I mean, it's not every day a billionaire approaches you. So what did he want? After making sure it wasn't a scam, I met up with him with the help of Maria, and he expressed his desire to help me out. He said he'd give me $20 million to make my life better, to make sure we never have to struggle again. I had to pick up my jaw from the floor. For a moment, things felt a bit dizzy. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. 20 million? Mom, that's incredible. It's more money than we've ever dreamed of having. Please tell me you're not joking. Sometimes I have to pinch myself because I still can't believe it. And the best part is that I finally received the money after a year of waiting, dealing with some technical issues on his end. But that's why I'm telling you all of this now, because the money has finally come into my possession. And that's when I realized something. Wait a minute. Is this why you acted strange last year when Victor said that your inheritance money was only going to be $20,000? Yep. Oh my God, I knew something was up. And I'm not sorry I lied to him either. I just couldn't bear the thought of my son being a selfish gold digger, only caring about himself. Honestly, Mom, he deserves it. He's treated you terribly and has basically abandoned us. I'm glad you understand, dear. I didn't want anyone to know about the money until I was sure it would be in our hands, and now that it is, I'm having second thoughts about telling him altogether. I mean, he seems to be doing just fine without it, so I don't think you should tell him. You're right. It'll be our little secret. Well, we'll make the best of this, Mom. We're going to have a wonderful life ahead of us, and Victor won't get a cent of this money. As the months passed, my mom and I had big plans to enjoy the newfound money. We talked about exotic vacations, fancy restaurants, and getting the best medical care we could afford. We envisioned creating wonderful memories together. Sadly, my mom's health continued to deteriorate. Her condition often forced us to cancel our plans. Thanks to the resources we had, we consulted numerous medical experts who all unfortunately delivered the same grim prognosis. Vicky's condition was worsening, and the future looked bleak. Another year went by, and tragically, we lost my mom. She passed away peacefully in her sleep, and I was right there beside her. The night before, I had chosen to sleep next to her because I had sensed something was wrong. I guess it's true what they say, when you know, you know. I was devastated. Grief overwhelmed me, making it hard to eat or sleep. I missed my mom terribly. She had always been my pillar of strength, and her absence left a void that felt impossible to fill. I didn't know how I was going to do it without her. Heck, to this day, I don't know how I'm getting by without her. But this next part always makes me smile on those particularly hard days, and I know she's laughing in heaven because what happened next was the greatest form of poetic justice to occur. After my mom's passing, I was determined to give her a grand send-off. I planned a beautiful funeral to honor her memory and ensure her final farewell was something unforgettable. To my surprise, Victor, my estranged brother, decided to attend the funeral. I couldn't believe he was there, given our history, and given the fact that we hadn't spoken ever since I kicked him out of my house 2 years ago. In a rather shocking twist, Victor announced that he was at the funeral because he wanted his share of the inheritance. The lawyer and I exchanged puzzled glances since Victor wasn't even mentioned in the will. A lawyer took Victor and I aside to discuss the matter privately. After a brief discussion, the lawyer explained to Victor that our mother had altered her will years ago, making me the sole beneficiary of her assets. Victor's initial reaction was to laugh it off and claim our mother didn't know anything of value. I was quick to question him about his inheritance demands, if that was the case, and he shot me the evilest evil eye he could muster. Reluctantly, he admitted that he wasn't as well off as he once appeared to be. It seemed the prodigal son had fallen on hard times and was seeking to return. However, unlike the prodigal son, we weren't ready to welcome him home with gifts, rather just a reality check hit him hard. The lawyer explained that the inheritance was $20 million, bequeathed solely to me. Victor grabbed the will to see for himself, and the revelation left him utterly shocked. No one could have anticipated his next move because that's when this grown man fainted. He hit the floor with a loud thud, and we were forced to resuscitate him when he came to. And he said, "I had the weirdest dream. Mom gave you $20 million and left me with nothing." Hate to break it to you, buddy, but that wasn't a dream. When Victor realized this, he looked woozy all over again, and we decided to take him to the hospital. The entire ride there, he was moaning and groaning about how it wasn't fair and that he deserved that money. I couldn't help but laugh at his predicament because karma was a real B-word to him. It was quite the scene, and I couldn't help but think that my mom was up there in heaven sharing a good laugh with me.